some decisions feel small.
Until time proves otherwise.
Some people don't struggle financially because they don't know what to do. They struggle because staying the same feels safer. There's a strange kind of comfort in repeating patterns that don't work. Buying things to relieve stress, delaying difficult decisions, avoiding numbers that make the chest tighten. It doesn't look dramatic. It doesn't feel reckless. In fact, it often feels responsible. I'll deal with it later. I just need more time. Things will stabilize. But over time, what feels like patience slowly becomes postponement, and what feels like caution quietly becomes self-sabotage. Not loud, not obvious, just familiar. And familiarity can be more powerful than logic. From the outside, nothing seems wrong. Bills are paid, work is steady, life looks stable enough. There's income coming in, there's a plan, at least in theory, a budget that exists somewhere, goals that will be addressed soon. Days move forward in small, predictable ways. Coffee before work, notifications during lunch, streaming at night, small rewards for getting through another week. There's no crisis, no emergency meeting, no dramatic collapse. And that's exactly why it's hard to notice. Because financial self-sabotage rarely looks irresponsible. It looks ordinary. It hides inside comfort, inside habits that feel deserved, inside decisions that seem harmless in isolation. Nothing feels urgent. And when nothing feels urgent, nothing feels necessary to change. It usually begins with something small, a subscription that could be canceled but isn't, an investment account that should be reviewed but stays untouched, a conversation about salary that feels uncomfortable and quietly postponed. There is always a reasonable explanation. This month has been busy. I'll organize everything next week. It's not the right time to think about this. None of these choices feel destructive. They feel temporary, minor, flexible. But what makes them powerful is repetition. One small avoidance becomes a pattern. One delay becomes a habit. And habits don't announce themselves as turning points. They just continue. And in continuing, they slowly begin to define direction. Not through one large mistake, but through a series of moments that felt too small to matter. Financial self-sabotage rarely feels like self-destruction. It feels like emotional protection. The brain is designed to avoid tension. Uncertainty triggers stress. Money decisions trigger uncertainty. So the mind looks for relief. Relief comes from delaying, from distracting, from choosing the option that preserves emotional stability. Every avoided action reduces immediate discomfort, and the brain rewards that reduction. Over time, it learns a pattern. Short-term relief is better than long-term clarity, not because it's logical, but because it feels safer. And safety, even when costly, can become more attractive than growth. The consequences don't arrive loudly. There is no sudden collapse, no dramatic loss. Instead, the cost appears quietly. Savings grow slower than they could. Opportunities pass without action. Income stays stable, but never expands. Nothing feels broken. And that's the danger, because when the loss is invisible, it's easy to accept. Over time, the life you could have built becomes harder to reach, not because you failed, but because you stayed where it felt safe. And safety, repeated long enough, can quietly become limitation. The realization rarely feels dramatic. It doesn't arrive as panic. It arrives as awareness. You notice that nothing is collapsing, but nothing is growing either. You recognize the pattern, not in a single decision, but in the accumulation of small ones. The postponements, the avoided conversations, the actions that felt unnecessary at the time. And slowly it becomes clear. The comfort wasn't protecting you, it was preserving a version of you that never had to change. Financial self-sabotage doesn't shout, it waits. And by the time you see it, it has already shaped more than you expected. Self-sabotage rarely feels intentional. It feels comfortable. It feels familiar. It feels safe. And that is why it lasts. The hidden cost isn't sudden loss. It's the life that slowly narrows without resistance. Not because you didn't know better, but because you chose relief over discomfort. And over time, relief becomes repetition. Repetition becomes identity. And identity quietly shapes what feels possible.